Hey Tegan, what's in the bag? It's the show where I come home from the comic book store and we look through my bag of comics because, say it with me, folks, I buy too many comic books. If you like this show, if you like any of my shows, if you like any of my writing, the first thing I would like to do is to point you in the direction of my Patreon and tell you that's how you show your appreciation for it. But with that out of the way, let's get started with a look at the Powerpuff Girls. Yes, I can't say I was necessarily expecting to come home with a Powerpuff Girls comic earlier in the week, but then I just happened to see that this new relaunch of the Powerpuff Girls in comics, I don't think it's the first Powerpuff Girls comics by any means, but this is the first ones from Dynamite, being written by Kelly Thompson. And I've said it before on this show. I'm really enjoying Kelly Thompson's Birds of Prey. I'm enjoying her Birds of Prey enough that she got me to buy one of the new G.I. Joe books. I'm not buying any of the new G.I. Joe books, except that I did pick up the Kelly Thompson Scarlet series. And of course, I'm buying the Larry Hama one, but that's not one of the new books. That's numbered like 307 or 308. But anyway, point being, Kelly Thompson is on a roll lately. So when I saw that her name was on the Powerpuff Girls, all right, it was coming home with me. Art by Paulina Ganucheau, Jeff Eckelberry letterer, and I flipped through it in the store real quick, and it just seems to be absolutely perfect evocation of the charms of the original show. And really, when we're talking about the original run of the Powerpuff Girls on TV, it was a charming show. Colorful, interesting designs, witty scripts. It was just a good show, even though I was well past the age of watching, objectively what is a children's television program here. It was worth watching. It was interesting, and I was a fan. And this looks like Kelly Thompson gets what made that show so fun to begin with. And she found an artist who really knows how to evoke that feeling with all these bright colors, bold lines. Dynamite's been on a roll lately with their media adaptations. Johnny Quest is coming back to comic books. I think they had a free comic book day edition of some sort of preview story for the Johnny Quest run by Joe Casey. I have absolutely no affection for Johnny Quest whatsoever. So I honestly don't think even Joe Casey's going to get me through the door for Johnny Quest. But apparently the license still has enough juice to make it to the stands. Now, if you want to talk about unexpected amount of juice in the year 2024, this Thundercats book seems to be doing boffo business. And here's an ad for a spin-off. They're doing spin-offs for all the individual Thundercats. I'll tell you, I was a kid in the 80s. I watched Thundercats. I bought the Marvel comic book. I think I had Lion-O. That's it. It didn't really pull me in further than like one toy and a handful of the comic books. So I don't have any real attachment to the property. I haven't checked out this new iteration of it, but the people who love Thundercats do seem to like this. They have piles of it at the store every new issue. So let's see, what do we got here? Oh, I think the gimmick is that they're writing stories about what they want to do in the future. So Bubbles wants to grow up to be a bunny. Blossom wants to be a detective. And Buttercup wants to be a luchador. Makes perfect sense. And that's fantastic. Fantastic use of the comics format to tell parallel stories here, capturing these characters' voices precisely. And really, that's what you see in her Birds of Prey. Kelly Thompson, she's great at just getting these characters, these licensed characters that we all know so well, capturing their voices perfectly on the page. It's a skill. It's a skill. This looks very much in line with what I would be hoping to find in a Powerpuff Girls comic book. Another Thundercats ad. I guess they really are moving the Thundercats material here. And Space Ghost. Man, I like David Pepose. I have a lot of respect for David Pepose. I read the volume of Savage Avengers he did. I really adored that book. It was a good book. But I am just the right age where any like straight-faced attempt at the Space Ghost material just is a complete no-fly for me. It seems almost like a political statement to reject any Space Ghost that doesn't involve him sitting at a desk. People seem to like this one though, even though it seems like the statute of limitations for nostalgia for the original Space Ghost, like the actual heroic Space Ghost, not the ironic Space Ghost from the 90s. It seems like that statute of limitation should have expired a while ago, but people are buying this, so more power to them, I guess. And, yep, meanwhile in Townsville, everything's on fire. So, yeah, I get to fight robots and that guy. Everyone's favorite. They didn't go with Mojo Jojo for the first issue, which, I guess they're saving him. That's cute. Hamsters. Do it for him. Yeah, that looks fun. I don't know if this is a limited series or ongoing, but it looks fun. I'm going to sit down and read it and actually get all the jokes later, I'm sure. Next issue. Well, there's the man. Next issue. In this issue's panel-busting adventure, Simian arch-villain Mojo Jojo lures Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup to the park for a superpowered throwdown. But rather than doing battle, he plants micro-devices on their adorable little necks instead. Clever little gizmos that will let him sneak inside their dreams and learn their secret combat strategies. Their secret combat strategies usually boil down to hitting things. Flying and hitting things. They're up to 14 on. So I guess this was an unlimited series with the Torn Gronbeck writing. An ad for issue 3 already. Oh, they're switching artists here. They're going to have Mariana Puglia on issue 3. And that's something I do appreciate about Dynamite. Marvel could take a page from their book. They show you at least little pictures of all the covers you didn't bring home from the store with you. All right. Well, that's fun. That's fun. What else we got here? All right. I picked up a new Daredevil spinoff, The Woman Without Fear. It was sort of a last-minute thing in the store. I was eyeing either this or the new Phoenix #1, which, honestly, I almost made it home with me because it had the Black Order in it, and it had one of the dudes. It had one of the heavies from the John Romita Jr. and Dan Jurgens Thor run in it. So maybe I'll come back to it on Unlimited. But just making the decision in the store, one more book to come home with me. I flipped through this one, and I saw that the art was by Michael Dowling, and I do really like him. I like him enough that I bought that All Hallows Eve book that he did a couple years ago now with that new Spider-Man villainess. But I like his stuff, so that's what pushed this one over the edge. Erica Schultz writing, Dee Cunniffe colorist, Clayton Cowles lettering. Who's doing this? Who's doing this? Very nice looking variant. Is this? Are you gonna give me a Swabby? Is this a Swabby? Sway art. Yeah, okay. Joshua Sway Swabby. That is a nice cover. And I really like what they have done with the Elektra character. Not enough to buy the current run of Daredevil. I bought the first issue. It didn't really grab me. You know, that's kind of how it is with Daredevil. Like I say, maybe I'll go back at some point and catch up with it on Unlimited. Because I love the new costume they gave her. I think this is an all-time costume update. And, you know, Elektra was not a character that ever really did anything for me before. But put a new costume on her, give her something new to do. Said, what are you doing? You were just lying down. Give her a new costume, give her something new to do. She's more interesting, I guess. So, yeah. She's hanging around Hell's Kitchen. She's got some sort of protege who I'd probably know if I were up to date with the actual Daredevil book, which I'm not at present. But I flip through this, and I like Michael Dowling's work. He seems like he's got a little bit of the Phil Noto energy, where he's someone who definitely knows how to draw people, maybe even uses some photo reference. But if you look at his layouts, if you look at how he actually draws, he does actually know how to draw. Photo reference has gotten a really bum rap in the last few years because the ease of computers and, you know, it's so easy to use it in very lazy ways. But it is a perfectly legitimate thing for artists to do, especially if you don't make it so obvious. It can be, you know, an incredibly useful tool, I think, for just about any artist. And it clearly doesn't get in the way of this guy's storytelling, because he knows how to tell a story here. Even without the word balloons, this is an excellent sequence with Elektra, or no, not Elektra, Elektra's protege coming home and filling a dish with ice cubes and cold water to soak her bloody knuckles in, which, you know, that's basically the writer's life. But yeah, that is a great costume. You must admit. I really like it, at least. One of the new... all my favorite characters in one book, so I can be sure to not bring it home with me. I think we've already been over my feelings about the White Queen a few times in the past. Someone is being really spunky tonight, and not in a good way. And Kitty Pryde, you know, they wrote her out of the book on a bullet flying through space, and they could have just used that as their opportunity to finally be rid of the character, and they did not. They did not opt for that, so I don't know. But yeah, Michael Dowling, he draws a really nice Elektra. So, oh, Predator versus Black Panther. She's in Madripoor. Oh, yeah, I was flipping through it in the store, and I think one of the things that pushed it over the edge after I saw Michael Dowling was seeing Elektra going up against Crossbones, who is you'd think would be someone who would fight Daredevil more, but I can't even remember if he's fought Daredevil at all. I think they encountered, no, they didn't even encounter each other during Streets of... What are you doing? They didn't even encounter each other during Streets of Poison, I don't think. So he's a villain who is actually a good Daredevil-sized opponent who you don't see fighting Daredevil very often. So that's a good matchup. And of course, I think, you know, Elektra's personality is such that she's going to underestimate Crossbones, which is probably, yeah, Crossbones is a typical costume goon. He thinks it's all about him, whereas the fact is, anyone who goes up against Captain America for a living can probably take you or I at least, and should certainly be able to give Elektra a run for her money. And is this... Oh, Nefaria and Silvermane. There you go. Classic Marvel goons. Oh, giant-sized Thor coming up. Well, I'll get it because it's got Al Ewing. I haven't necessarily been impressed with who they've been getting to draw these this batch giant-size issues, but Brian Hitch cover, can't beat that. Crossbones did say I'd have to hit him harder than that. Well, there you go. She keeps thinking that she's going to put him down, but Crossbones is tougher than that. Oh, well, but there you go. That's how you take it. That's how you take out Crossbones. You shoot him. Oh, I don't know who this guy is. He's a production designer. Oh, man. Too young. Marvel Studios. See, now I have to admit, that's cool. Even the behind the scenes, even the movie guys, they're part of Marvel, so that they get an in memoriam. Oh, and this guy, Eminem Punisher. Venom War. Oh boy, another Erica Schultz joint though. I got Juan Jose Rip drawing zombie Venom. I have absolutely no interest in Venom. What are you doing? You are so fussy tonight. I was playing with him for like 45 minutes before I sat down to film, and he didn't want to let me do it. He didn't want me to join you wonderful people tonight. So yeah, it took the better part of an issue for Elektra to actually take Crossbones down. She should not have underestimated Crossbones. What can I say? If you fight Captain America for a living, you can definitely take on any number of Daredevil bad guys. Here we go, Hornheads. So we get a nice text page. So yeah, is this going to be an ongoing, or is this just a 5-issue? Everything, I expect everything now is going to be a 5 or 6 issue wonder. But yeah, Michael Dowling, it looks pretty good. Nice fights, honestly. Straight up. Nowadays, the older I get, I just want to see some nice fight choreography in my comic books. And this seems to do the job. So yeah, Daredevil, Woman Without Fear, sort of on the fence about it when I brought it home, but looks like I might be bringing home issue 2, because that's a fun issue to flip through. What else we got going here? Someone is committed to being difficult tonight, and that is all I'll say on the matter. He is catching my ire, shall we say. Anyway, let's take a quick look at the new issue of Witchblade, because I want to point you in the direction of the new special episode that Claire and I just recorded, talking about just this very thing. The brand new Witchblade #1 reboot, full reboot, bringing the character back for Image from Top Cow. Unfortunately, neither of us cared for it very much. There were things that we liked about it, and I think it could have potential in another, if it lasts a full year or 2 years or more, it could hit a nice little rhythm. But the problem is that Witchblade Volume 1, number 1, is straight up one of the best number 1 issues of its era. A tough act to follow in terms of introducing a whole new character, whole new mythos, a whole new, type of fantasy to Image in 1995. And that is a tall order, and I don't envy the people who had to do that. And I know this was on the drawing board for a while. They wanted to get it right. And the problem is, and we discussed this at length in our episode, which I would, again, like to point you towards if you're interested in the subject, it feels very worked over. It feels like they spent a lot of time trying to get it right. And unfortunately, that maybe sapped some of the life out of it, because that first Witchblade number 1, it really hits. It thunders in, introducing a character that you care about. As soon as you finish that issue, you want to see more of what's going to happen to Sarah Pazzini and her adventures. Whereas here, it almost seems like at some point, and these are just the thoughts that I've had since Claire and I have, discussed it the other day, it seems very much a comic book that someone needed at some point in the process to sit down and say, this is essentially reintroducing the concept of the Witchblade to people who are already familiar. What you needed to do, I think, was come out of the gate reintroducing the character as if she's brand new. And I don't necessarily think this number 1 issue does a good job with that. The characters show up and it's like, oh, it's that guy. I remember that guy. He's a little bit different now. As opposed to just, teasing it out with a bit more, say. Nice cover, though, showing off the new design, which is, it is certainly similar to the old Witchblade. It has still the strong Michael Turner influence, but, it's got these, cranberry spider eyes all over it because, the number of gems in the Witchblade has always been a little bit variable. Anyway, I wanted to get the hard copy of it, even though I already had a advanced copy, so I could see all the stuff in the back. Looks like they put a fair amount of sketches and text pieces and all the like on here. So it's written by Marguerite Bennett, line art by Giuseppe Cafaro, colors by Arif Prianto, letters by Troy Pateri, edits by Mark Silvestri, Matt Hawkins, and Elena Salcedo, and a whole raft of variant covers here. A whole raft. They had a J. Scott Campbell one at a 150 ratio, the Bill Sienkiewicz at a 1/100 ratio. You could get the Mark Silvestri Virgin line art version, I guess, of that cover for 1/250 ratio. The signed Virgin line art for 1/500. The original art sketch for 1/1,000. Convention foil exclusive. So yeah, they know how to sell a new comic in 2024. I'm sure this number will do. I'm sure this issue will do good numbers. But it jumps right in, showing you who the Witchblade is, what she's about. In some cases, that's admirable. That's the way to go. I don't think it was the right tip to start here. I really think they needed to build up to it, because as it is right now, it's like, oh, you get one page of Sarah, and then this is what's going to happen soon. And so, the issue is dealing with how you get from point A to point C here, and the book is the B in between. But I don't know. I think The Witchblade has more agency in this one. We see here, although I will say, the color's looking a lot nicer on paper than on the digital version. There's a lesson for you if ever there was one. The digital advanced copy that I had did not look anywhere near as good as the actual book in my hands. I will say that. And so this is a variation of the first Witchblade origin, where essentially she is an undercover cop who always gets in over her head because it's textual. I'm not reading anything into the book. It is textual that at least when the first Witchblade series starts, Sarah Pezzini is not a very good cop. She is constantly depending on the people around her to pull her fat out of the fryer. And then she gets the Witchblade, and, once she figures out how to do it, and starts chopping people in half there, it sort of saves her bacon, in terms of having to learn how to actually survive better. But it shows up. There you go. And what they're doing here with the way it looks is it doesn't look quite so metallic. It almost has a papery feeling, like papyrus, I think was the comparison I make on the show. It's interesting. Like I say, obviously a lot of thought put into every level of the book. And in some cases, you can definitely say, okay, maybe they just put too much thought into it. They needed to step back, look at it from the outside, and make it feel a bit more spontaneous. Because as it is, it definitely feels as if the type of book where every decision is, laboriously overthought. That's what you're going to do when you have a solid, grade A property who's been off the stands for a while. You don't want to screw it up. So it's not like I don't understand where that feeling is coming from, but at the same time, I think it needs to get its feet under it. Maybe in 6 months, in 10 months, it'll have a bit more swing to its step. There's the creative team. Nice photos of everyone. We get a text piece from Mark Silvestri, which was not in the advanced copy, so I need to sit down and read that. Oh, and here, like I say, they've been working on this for a while. Again, this is the first time I'm seeing this process stuff. So, yeah, I was assuming that this redesign was very heavily Mark Silvestri, because it looks like his work as of the 2020s. If you have read his recent Batman book, The Deadly Duo. So I take a good long look at that new Batman book, recent Batman book, that Mark Silvestri did on the Murderer's Row article I did on Silvestri for the Journal in the later part of last year. Oh, that's a while ago. But that book was notable for showing off Silvestri's newish style, which is a lot more detail, a lot more lines on the page, which isn't necessarily the usual direction for a lot of older artists, but it's very interesting. I haven't talked Claire into reading The Deadly Duo yet. I've floated the idea of us doing it for an episode of Udder Madness, possibly as a special bonus episode or something like that. I'm going to get her into it one of these days, because I do like that story very much. Early Cafaro designs here. The new Sarah Pezzini, obviously influenced by Jessica Jones, which is kind of the template for how these characters look like now for the last couple decades. Redesign options for Ian Nottingham. Oh, different versions of Joe Siri, who I guess is going to look a little bit different. And, notably, both Ian and Ken have beards this go around. So yeah, tons of process stuff from thumbnails. I like that. I always like seeing process stuff. Line art. So yeah, I guess he has to be working. I wonder, are these thumbnails digital or? They must be digital if he's doing them at that size. I'm just fascinated by how people make comic books. I always have. You get to see the black and white, early the pre-colored Silvestri drawing here. One of the other, I think this is the B color by Cafaro and Prianta. Cover D, line art by Danny with colors by Brad Simpson. That's a nice striking piece. Although I don't know if I would have gone for having the background color so similar to the pearlescent in the foreground there. Maybe, put some contrasting colors in there so it pops a bit. There's that J. Scott Campbell cover and the Sienkiewicz cover. I can't remember seeing this. I'm sure he must have drawn Sarah Pazzini at some point before, but I don't remember seeing. Maybe I need to go look for that. He had to have drawn Witchblade at some point. Oh, here's a Silvestri piece I haven't seen yet. Nice piece of art right there. Next issue, Feeling Good. So yeah, I'm a fan, so obviously I'm on board. One woman in a generation preserving the balance between light and dark. And then they got a whole back page full of all the celebrity endorsements. Tim Seeley, Al Ewing, Ryan North, Karen Gillan, Chip Zdarsky, John Lehman, Blake Northcott. So that's a who's who of the people you want to be saying good things about your comic book. I don't think it's a home run. I think it could be a decent series. But as a first issue, it feels kind of labored. That's just me. Anyway, like I say, if you're curious to hear more, check out the show. What else we got going here? All right, so this thing, Paranoid Gardens #1, written by Gerard Way, who you might remember from Umbrella Academy. They had a run on Doom Patrol as well. I want to say, this is how old I am. I want to say I wrote a review for the first Umbrella Academy collection for the Journal, and it's been so long. I think I did. I don't remember what I wrote. I remember vaguely liking it. I think there's been more Umbrella Academy material since then. They did a whole TV show that's still running amazingly. I'm surprised that anything lasts longer than 6 episodes in the streaming era. The one they had left, I don't know if this is the A cover, but this was a gimmick cover with a die cut that they put a bag in it so that it didn't get all munged up. The reason why I was sure this was coming home with me was because it's got Chris Weston on it. And I know a couple years ago I wrote a piece on Chris Weston looking at some of his Judge Dredd work for the Journal. So he's one of the best artists working today. And this looks like it's a little bit different because it's about a hospital of some kind, I think. So yeah, story, Gerard Way, Sean Simon, art, Chris Weston, colors, David Stewart, letters, Nate Picos of Blambot. And you see, just from panel 1, when Chris Weston comes to town, you're in the hands of a master. Just every panel is going to look like $1 million. So it's like a convalescent home for superheroes or supervillains or something like that. That's fun. Okay. I'm on board. I'm easy. As soon as I see Chris Weston's on board, it doesn't take too long to get me excited. And you know, when Chris Weston draws your comic, every panel is going to be full of background detail and little gags and just the verisimilitude that makes a book come alive. Is that this creature has nemesis teeth here? Just a big neck of vertical chompers there. Excellent. This looks great. This looks fantastic. I love it. Love it. I'm sure I'll love it more when I actually sit down and read what's in. Oh my goodness. And he can actually draw architecture. If you really want to separate the English from the Dutch, you put in your comic book script, yeah, just give me 2 pages of a giant, hospital mansion. My goodness. This is a gorgeous piece of work right here. Creepy stuff, of course. Pretty much guess from that cover that it's creepy stuff happening in Paranoid Gardens. I wonder if it's about, puppy dog picnic. No, it doesn't look like it. We'd like to expand your corporation to include a luxury vacation resort of wealthy senior citizens in return for granting you eternal life. Well, there you go. Villains are always the corporations. Can't beat that. Oh, and it even has a pinup. Fantastic. Grendel. That's really interesting because it seems like the last year or so, they've put a big push for Grendel back in the public eye in terms of reprinting the early stuff, putting out like omnibus editions, a new series. And if you remember, this is all following the schedule of when they were supposed to be doing a Grendel TV show. And the Grendel TV show was one of the first casualties of when they started, canceling everything because they figured out that streaming was falling apart. But all the publishing plans seem to have remained, and so everyone is coming around to Grendel. And frankly, I have not read very much Grendel. There's a ton of Grendel. Most Grendel I have not read. So at some point I need to sit down and get one of those omnibuses or something. But certainly he was really ahead of his time in terms of having a saga that was multi-generational, branching from, 1940s through to, the weird future. Heart Piercer. Tricked into killing the last unicorn, a betrayed hunter rises to save the world from darkness. I don't recognize the names on that one. Oh, well, there you go. Here's all your Umbrella Academy merchandise. So they up to Volume 3, it looks like. Well, I read the first one, so I guess I've read a third of the extant Umbrella Academy. Fun stuff. Definitely, if you like Doom Patrol, it's in that vein. And this, I'm picking this up too. It's got art by this Hayden Sherman fellow who I don't really know anything about, but it's interesting. And if it looks interesting, I'll take it home with me. Not always the best advice, but sometimes in the comic book store it pays off. Maybe not so much in the dating scene. So yeah, all right, nice week of new books. We looked at 4 number ones. 4 decent number ones, too. All right, so if you like this show, I got lots of other videos on this channel where I look at older comics, where I look at new comics as well. I got TikTok, where I look at a new comic book every day. You can find those videos on TikTok and Instagram. This summer we're doing Savage Tales every Wednesday. We just started Moonshadow, the J.M. DeMatteis and John J. Muth masterpiece from the 80s. We're going to be doing Moonshadow every Saturday for the next 3 months. That seems like it's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to sitting down and rereading that whole thing from front to back. What else? Check out the Patreon if you like any of these things. If you like any of what I do, that's how you show your appreciation. I got a podcast, which I've already told you to go check out my podcast, but I'll throw the card up there again. We put a lot of work into it. We have a lot of fun doing it. What else? I should, knock wood, have something new on the journal. I'm actually doing it. I'm actually getting back in the swing of things. I had a little break there, but I know people inexplicably like reading my comic book reviews. So what are you going to do? You got to give the people what they want. Anyway, y'all have a wonderful day. You hear me? Take care of yourself.